definitely isn't the worst finale of Doctor Who. There are worse things that have happened in Doctor Who than the Timeless Child. And I mean, I think the big problem isn't even necessarily the episode's fault. It's more so that in the future, it was never really followed up on. Which I guess was intentional, but...
You know what? Let's actually talk about it. I got some time to kill, why not? Let's talk The Timeless Child. Might as well speak about it considering I'm a Doctor Who YouTuber with 0 subs. And surely people want to hear my opinion on it. Surely. It's the hot new controversial topic. And it really grinds my gears. You know why? Because people will not shut the fuck up about it. It's been 3 years, people. Which is why, of course, I'm talking about it now. But I'm making a video about Series 12, okay? It's alright for me to do it. I saw another YouTuber did a video on it this year, which means it's still relevant to talk about. Right? YouTube comments who post about it under every video, crying, bitching and moaning about it daily. Still okay to talk about it, right? It's a complex issue, as are my thoughts on it, but I think I should get it out there because everyone's just so dying to hear my take on it. But before I do, I think it's important we talk about the background and why people reacted the way they did. First of all, let's just get one thing out of the way. If you're not a Doctor Who fan and you're talking about the Timeless Child stuff, shut the fuck up. Ain't nobody care. If you're not a Doctor Who fan and you're criticizing the show, we don't care. Stop talking. I've seen this a lot lately from people who clearly don't watch the show. In fact, they boast and say they've never cared for the show or never watched it, but from what I've heard, it's gotten really bad. Piss off. If you're a Doctor Who fan and are talking bad about the show, your opinion means nothing to me. Opinion disregarded, thrown in the trash. Oops, I accidentally stepped in shit. Second of all, I think a lot of people who are Doctor Who fans, I would still consider them fans, a lot of them think of Doctor Who in an incorrect manner. I'm just gonna flat out say it, their perception of Doctor Who is wrong. People see Doctor Who as any other type of show, or even worse, any other type of 2000 show, 2010 show. I hear it a lot, I see it a lot. The whole Doctor Who should end. Doctor Who should have ended. This idea that Doctor Who needs to end in some climactic finale, preferably with David Tennant, it's wrong. I gotta say how it is, it's wrong, stupid, and misguided. It shows a clear misunderstanding of everything Doctor Who is and stands for. I could do a whole video on this, but if you think Doctor Who should end, you're not doing it right, let me just say it like that. I think the reason some people think this is because they incorrectly think of Doctor Who as being just like any other show. Doctor Who is not like any other show. I mean, it's 60 years old, people. That alone should be enough, but the amount of content in Doctor Who is insane. It's infinite. Practically infinite. It's impossible. It would be impossible for anyone to consume it all. Like, I couldn't imagine it. Even if we cut it down way back to just New Who on its own, modern Doctor Who's length is way longer than most other modern series. I mean, if you look at it and look at how many other television titans have came and went in just the length of the revival of Doctor Who, it really puts things in perspective. I mean, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, the entire Arrowverse on the CW. And keep in mind, modern Doctor Who is only a fraction of the whole of Doctor Who. When changes are made in other shows, people like to say it's bad because it goes against the original vision. But Doctor Who has been going against the original vision since 1963. Some might argue the show goes against its original vision every episode, every new era, every new actor, every new showrunner, if you want to break it down like that with all of its infinitesimal changes. Doctor Who is special because it is wholly unique, different to any other show you may want to compare it to. So you can't. And I think people not understanding that whilst also mixing in with the unfortunate timing and the culture war, cringe, is why people responded to the new Doctor Who the way they did. Let me explain. People hate Chris Chibnall. They hate him. A lot of people like to say, no, we don't hate him, we just hate his writing. But be for real. I have spoken both to people online and people in real life, and they don't hate his writing or think he's just doing a bad job with the show. No, they hate him. They hate him, and they say it in less nice words than I do. And that is just, it's just baffling to me. He is just a guy writing for Doctor Who. Yeah, you can not like his work, but I feel for some of these people, that came later. When I watch a lot of these critiques, a lot of these Doctor Who is terrible now type videos, I see a common theme, which is that these people's hatred for Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker is what spawned their hatred for The Timeless Child, and not the other way around. Usually because they think they're corporate ideologues intent on brainwashing kids or something, but it can be for many other reasons. Don't want to put a limit or political stance on disliking a certain man whose sin includes writing not my favourite episode on Doctor Who. My point is that these people who have a bias make their video and attract in the second group of people, those who hate the new thing. Now these people will forever exist, and they're not always wrong, but they are always annoying, mostly because of how predictable they are. And I get it, change is scary and annoying sometimes, especially in a TV show that was doing just fine, thank you very much. But the point isn't about whether these people are wrong or not, because either way, in time they'll grow up and get over it, just in time to see the next group of people, the next generation, the next new wave experience it all right after them. And that is the cycle of showrunner hate. The cycle of showrunner hate is the name I've come up with to describe the phenomena of fan backlash towards the current showrunner of hit sci-fi TV show Doctor Who. You may be looking at me funny and thinking, the hell are you talking about? That thing doesn't exist. But the rest of you, I know you're listening and nodding along because this thing is real. The cycle begins like this. The new showrunner is announced. A heavy sigh of relief. What came before was so bad. This is new. This is gonna be good. Next, a few concerns. Maybe this won't be good. Next, I'll give it a chance. Next, this is so awful. They ruined this. They ruined this. They ruined that. Terrible episode. The worst in the show's history. The worst in history. What a joke. Doctor Who's ruined. They announced he's leaving. Thank God. And this new guy's coming in. Rinse, repeat. Now, which showrunner do you think I was talking about? All of them. I was talking about all of them. This happens every time. This happened with Russell T Davies. This happened with Stephen Moffat. This happened with Chris Chibnall, and it's already started happening with Russell T Davies again. This won't change, and it doesn't have to. Well, yes, it is slightly annoying to see the past so often repeat itself again and again and again without fail. Sometimes, though, things just are the way they are. My major point I'm trying to get across here is the wild double standard applied to this part of Doctor Who, and only this part of Doctor Who. The Timeless Child is held on this negative pedestal, as if it's the worst thing to happen to Doctor Who. Gasp sound effect. Retcon. A new origin for the Doctor that takes away the mystique? How could this happen? Oh wait, it's happened millions of times before. Saying the Timeless Child is bad because it's a retcon is mind-boggling to me. If that isn't the definition of double standard, there is a retcon basically every single episode of Doctor Who. Challenge, find an episode of Doctor Who without a retcon. Fucking impossible. I just went on a rant about how canon in Doctor Who is basically indecipherable. And you think any writer can step 2 inches without stepping on anyone else's toes? There are too many retcons in Doctor Who to count. Do I even need to go over a few of the egregious ones? Well, I will. In fact, I'll do you one better. I'll talk about the egregious retcons, specifically about the Doctor's origins. Let's go. The Doctor was originally meant to be a human. He was meant to have one heart. He couldn't regenerate. That was added later. His name was Theta Sigma. Then he was meant to be half human. Then he was meant to be full Time Lord again. Then he was meant to be inspired by Clara to take this specific TARDIS. Then there was meant to be the untempered schism. Then he was meant to be inspired by Clara to use his fear. Then he was meant to run away from Gallifrey because he was scared of the hybrid. I could go on. Oh, but the Timeless Child added new incarnations of the Doctor we didn't know about. The Timeless Child added pre-Hartnell Doctors. Actually, it was the brain of Morbius which added them. That doesn't count. And why not? Do you see? Do you get it? Why doesn't it count, guys? No, seriously, tell me. If it's an episode of Classic, it automatically doesn't count, even though the Classic is the original and better series? The intent was for those to be pre-Hartnell Doctors. Does that not matter? Or is that the only other retcon to ever happen in Doctor Who? Jesus Christ. Just say what you mean, which is, I didn't watch that episode, or I don't know a lot about Doctor Who, therefore it shouldn't count, blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter. To say the Timeless Child is bad because it's a retcon is... well, it's what I've been building up the context for this whole time. It's a double standard. And here are the real reasons you can criticize it. I have my problems with the Timeless Child, namely how predictable it is. It's kinda lame. It's not expanded upon, doesn't really change the way the Doctor sees herself. The Brendan flashback, as I mentioned earlier, is pointless. Tecteun is a very uninteresting character. The concept itself is mundane and not as interesting as it could have been. You're over-explaining something you didn't need to, and it adds nothing to the story. I don't particularly enjoy when this part of the Doctor's life is shown or explained. I don't particularly care for the origins of the Doctor. For me, the Timeless Child is... Not a twist I care for, not a story arc I'm interested in, and in my opinion, kind of a waste. Even if I personally wasn't on board for the twist, I would have been perfectly fine to see where it goes, or should I say went, which was nowhere. It just seems to me like a waste of time that was doomed to be itself retconned out of existence, like the half-human twist before it. These never stick. These types of twists never stick, they never will. And I think it's a shame that now his era is over, it seems like nothing will ever be done with it. Even if Chris Chibnall has said in an interview that he's fine with that, and I guess I am too. I mean, I'm not too particularly bothered. In fact, I would probably be more bothered if we had to keep up with the story arc. But now, with that all being said, let's go over the pros. Yes, there are pros. This decision is not without merit. As easy as it is to shit on this particular type of creative decision, and trust me, I do it all the time, there is also a lot that works here. Namely, plot holes. People say this change breaks Doctor Who. You are dead wrong. There are no plot holes in this change. Yep. Genuinely, I've thought about it. I've looked long and hard for inconsistencies, and the best I could find were weird plot details that work better if the Timeless Child is true. Because what the twist is really telling us is that regeneration as a concept is something that was not born naturally into Time Lords, was something discovered and then genetically augmented onto them. Something that they can inject with a syringe into themselves and change how and what they look like at will. This is something that we didn't know before, that we do know now, and it answers a lot. The War Games, the Second Doctor's regeneration, where they showed a bunch of pictures of what he could look like, Destiny of the Daleks, Romana's regeneration, one of the most baffling scenes in the entirety of Doctor Who, explained by the Timeless Child. Time of the Doctor, the ability to give the Doctor new regenerations, it finally makes sense. There are a lot of misconceptions from people who I am convinced either straight up didn't watch the episode or watched it blindfolded and covering their ears, because how do you think of these things? No, the Doctor does not remember his lives before he became the Doctor. They erased his memories. That's the whole point of the flashbacks. Is that why we needed them? To explain to the dummies that the Doctor doesn't remember the past? He doesn't remember his past, guys. That's why they're there. The first Doctor is still the first Doctor because the Doctor remembers that being his first life. That's when the character we know as the Doctor was born. The Doctor does not have infinite regenerations. If you paid any semblance of attention, they said clearly when the Doctor had their memory erased, they had the 13 regen life limit inflicted upon them. And yes, the limit was put upon him and all of the Time Lords by Rassilon. And yes, in Time of the Doctor, they give him another regeneration cycle, which means that for this new regeneration cycle that we are on right now, the Doctor has 11 left, unless you include Lie of the Land, where then we've got 10. Oh my god, guys, so fucking terrible episode. Hey look, another retcon which you can be angry about, guys. Yeah, if you want to talk about retcons, the 11th Doctor in Time of the Doctor saying that this is his final regeneration of the cycle is a crazy one. So if you couldn't regenerate anymore after this one, what was all this? What a fucking ass pull. And you guys accept that? This is way more egregious. At least the Timeless Child doesn't affect the show. It doesn't affect any of the Doctor's life, or life up until now, or at least any life he has any memory of. All the twist does is essentially hints at a past way before the show even started, which is fine, I guess. As I said, it's gonna be retconned, it's inevitable. I knew it the second it was announced it would be, but that's fine. Everything in Doctor Who's been retconned. So if you're that bothered by the Timeless Child, just imagine the retcons already happened. May as well have. Wow, that was a long rant.